I didn't grow up in just one home. I grew up in the whimsical and arcane school of Hogwarts, the Baroque Beast Castle, and the labyrinthine 221B Baker Street. And maybe, without realizing it, you did too. Some of the most important people in my life, they didn't even exist, but they taught me wit, bravery, loyalty, and so much more. They raised me, although people saw them merely as ink on paper or pictures moving on screen. One of the characters that personally shaped me was none other than Hermione Granger. Yes, the fuzzy haired girl known as the brightest witch of her age. People often called her an overachiever, a nerd, a teacher's pet, but well, you can say I saw a bit of myself in her. I realized through her that being ready to take on big responsibilities makes you stronger. That there is nothing absurd in being smart, in always being ready to help people. She taught me that it's okay to be sensitive at times, but she also showed me how to be bold. She taught me that sometimes you must be a rebel and challenge what you're told, that one can always head to the library, seek the wisdom it holds. And honestly, I still haven't gotten over my Harry Potter phase. Sometimes I just wish I had a wand tucked up my sleeve just to whip it out and mutter, Accio! Free marks on exams? I'm not the only one. I'm sure everyone here has at least one fictional friend, sibling, mentor, or rival who might have shaped who they are today. So the question now is, how is it that people who aren't real have such a real impact on our lives? Let me ask all of you here something. Haven't you ever seen a character on screen or in a book and thought, wait, that's me? Well, as per fMRI, functional magnetic resonance imaging, it's shown that when people see themselves in a fictional character or when they identify with a fictional character, the neural activity of their brain sees the character the way the individuals see themselves. If you see yourself in any fiction character, like I see a bit of myself in Hermione Granger, your brain will eventually start seeing the character the way you process yourself. And this helps us understand ourselves better because we're able to relate with the characters. Similar to this, there was a study conducted in 2021 by Broom et al., which talked about character identification and the neural activity in our brain. Let me give all of you another example of everyone's favorite Captain Jack Sparrow, the lovable terror. But what do we learn from him? Well, he is constantly reminding us that the problem is not the problem. The problem is your attitude about the problem. We relate to Jack Sparrow not because he is a hero which just happens out of sheer luck, but because he's so blatantly himself. And this stays with us because we too are faced with complex and messy scenarios in life. And Jack shows us the power of adaptability and wit, teaching us how to find solutions when all the logical options fail, and sometimes to just go with the flow. There was another study conducted in 2016 by Moore et al., which showed that adults who read fiction, or rather narrative fiction, scored higher on tests of empathy and theory of mind. Something here which means the ability to infer the thoughts and emotions of others than those who read non-fiction. And this study shows us that being able to engage in fictional narratives has actually helped people with their cognitive emotions. Take the story of Matilda, written by Roald Dahl. Matilda was a genius, surrounded by people who couldn't care less. But instead of giving in to her helplessness, she channeled her frustration in such a way that it became her power. And what Matilda taught me is that sometimes life is tough. Sometimes you're left to deal with things you shouldn't have to. But in those moments, you don't give up. You don't wait for rescue. You be your own rescue. You just do what you have to do. Because that's what resilience is, isn't it? Silent strength, even when no one's watching. So, characters being able to identify and cope up with their mental issues ultimately become someone the people going through the same look up to. And that exactly is the essence of identification and validation. Now, I'm sure everyone here knows about Sherlock Holmes and how he works. He focuses entirely on rationality, collecting data, and solving problems. By being influenced and beginning to observe things like him, we aren't mimicking him. We are simply training our minds to work like him. When I first read about Sherlock Holmes at around the age of 10, I didn't just admire him. I became him, at least in my own way. I started writing codes in my diaries, coming up with spy names, lurking around the house wearing the serious expression, scribbling suspicious activities, mostly about where all my chocolate went. This is something psychologists call as experience taking because we're developing ourselves in remaining more calm, composed, not being carried away by emotions during complex situations. And this way, we are rewriting our abilities to think more clearly. In a conversation with one of my good friends, she said that even after we close the covers of a book that inspires us, its characters stick with us, shaping who we become and how we see the world. Her words are incredibly resonant, and it's not just the fictional characters in books that do this. On screen characters have just as powerful an effect. I'm certain most over here must have grown up watching the endless chase of Tom and Jerry. I still remember 7-year-old me curled up on the sofa watching Tom chase Jerry, sometimes with my mom, and giggling at all of Tom's misfortunes. I honestly felt bad for that guy. But slowly, I realized maybe getting flattened by a door, getting caught in a mousetrap, or getting blown up by his own devices, Tom never really backed down, which also somehow had me rooting for him in every next wacky idea of his. And let's all be honest. Haven't we all, like Tom, tried to do something, failed, tried, failed again, only to wonder if what we're doing is really worth it? As Winston Churchill once said, success is not final, failure is not fatal. It's the courage to continue that counts. And isn't that precisely what Tom teaches us? He shows us that effort matters, even if the outcome isn't what we hope for. Well, his story isn't about success, it's about persistence. And by looking at him failing yet coming back up again and again and again, I think it's only right to call him the master of perseverance. Let's now take The Lion King, for example. Didn't we all feel slightly the same grief that Simba felt when Mufasa was thrown off the cliff? When I first watched The Lion King, I could not hold back my tears, and I didn't even know why at that age. I kept wondering, it's just a movie, why do I feel sad? It was only later that I realized it was grief. A sort of grief that helped me understand loss in a safe way before life it threw it at me for real. This pain that we all experienced was us processing our resilience capability in a controlled and a fictional environment. And this is something which often creates narrative scars. Oh, but it isn't a sign of weakness. Oh no, but rather a sort of evidence for your emotional capacity. It helps strengthen us against our own future pains, griefs, and disappointments, allowing us to build real world resilience, all from fictional trauma. Now, How about learning something from the villain? Think it's impossible? Well, identify the beast from Beauty and the Beast. Can't we say that his story is one that helps us understand what happens if we give in to our anger and selfishness? Oh, not the literally being cursed into a beast part, but the part where we are cursed with hollow regrets and are left haunted with what ifs. When I first watched Beauty and the Beast at around the age of 6, I truly despised the Beast. He was rude, cruel, a monster. I couldn't understand that Belle would even go talk to him. But when I grew older and rewatched it, I saw him differently. I realized that Beast's anger wasn't about Belle. It was about fear, regret, and loneliness. And suddenly, the monster that I once disliked became one I understood. By looking at his story, we too are provided a small space for reflection. By looking at his story, we are given the choice to choose compassion over cruelty. Because we don't identify the beast with admiration, but by recognition. And thus, the very idea of fictional characters rewriting us is not just a metaphor. It is very much a living, breathing reality. In fact, in the very sense of us becoming a part of their story, getting immersed in their story, they too become a part of ours, helping us create a rewritten blueprint for all our actions and decisions. Because when we reach the last page of a book or the ending of a movie, we often realize we aren't left the same person who started it. So, in the end, I want all of you here to take a moment and truly reflect. Who raised you? Thank you.